Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday with Level Up Academy. This is your host, Dr. Leland, with Red Music from Wednesday. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Leland from Level Up Academy. Welcome to our channel. Thank you for 10,000 subscribers on my YouTube. We are ranked top 10% podcasters out of 3 million with 25 distribution channels. And we are on 6 continents, 80 plus nations and countries. We have MP3, live stream, TV show, and internet radio soon in 2024. And what is Level Up Academy about? Our vision is to be the Netflix of education. Our mission is to level up the world through education. Will you join us and help us? Share your knowledge, inspire others. We are in 25 distribution channels, again, 80 nations and countries, globally ranked at top 10% podcasters with E360 TV network. All right, and check this out. These are some activities that I love to do to meet A-listers in Hollywood. You see Stanley in there, you see the RoboCop, Alien Guy, Monsterpalooza during that time. I am 3 times international bestselling co-author and have written so many books and going to be as well, having to publish. We do collaborative projects, memberships, courses, coaching, graphic design, book publishing, mentorship, and of course, we are your publicity hub. Welcome to Level Up Circle. We are on Roku, TV, Amazon Fire, Apple. 1,000 thanks to you. Have a fantastic day. Are you a curious student, eager to learn new skills and make your mark in the world? Or are you a professional seeking to advance your career and unlock your full potential? You need to be equipped with effective soft skills like communication, problem solving, teamwork, and more. The Level Up Academy by Doc Leland bridges the gap between education and employment through transferable skills training. Get the soft skills you need to be more effective at work. Check it out. Guess who's our guest today? I'm super excited. But first, we got some music to get us going. Hello, it's midweek. Some of you are probably shopping right now, right? Looking for things to buy for your loved ones. And some of you are morning with us. We appreciate you so much. Let's see who's in here. We had Dr. King, right? Let me take a look. What's up, Dr.
Bad hair day, guys. Bad hair day. That's why. Hello, my beautiful people. Love you guys. We love you. Have to support. Yes, love you. I will be adding partnership in my YouTube channel as I grow that community. Please help me subscribe, hit that notification bell, please. My goal is now to hit 20,000 subscribers. 10,000 is the next one. And our goal, this is our channel, not my channel, it's our channel. You know why it's our channel? It's because the people who are here are the people's stories that you need to hear, right? It's not just my story. My story was at the very beginning. And I don't know if you guys know, but moving forward, you're only going to hear people's stories and how they got here, because that's how we do life. We look at other people's journey, how we can extrapolate their information and how they got here. It's more of a cheat sheet, right? Like, you know how you get a test and your teacher's like, hey, it's an open book test. Those are more actually challenging because there's way too much information. But if you're given a parameters of what to study, then you can extrapolate that information in the book and an amalgamation of knowledge to put together in this index cards, right? It's the same thing with life. I pick and choose who I want to be in our TV circle. And I say our because circle is not just CJ. It's circle is everybody in our community. So the people that are here have stories, have amazing stories. They are going to give you adversity and what life is all about for them. But really what you need to do, not look at the outcome, not just look at their success and start comparing yourself, because you're going to go nuts. Don't compare. What you need to think about and listen and extrapolate is what they're telling you and how they got to where they are today. That's exactly what we're doing in Level Up Circle, is we're giving you ideas on how they got there today. Okay. So today is not even about anything else but an amazing human that I want to introduce to you. But first, you guys, you see StreamYard. I'm a StreamYard insider. Let me know if you need the code to get there. I'll put it on the comment section on this live. And I will be opening up a lot of opportunities for everyone to collaborate next year. I have an anthology coming up. It's going to open up on February 1st. I'll post, I'll actually redo the video that I did yesterday on YouTube. So hint, it's going to be deleted today. I'm going to redo it because I didn't like my audio. That audio was not good at all. So I'll be redoing that. But it is an anthology call. It's called Beyond Boundaries, Thriving in Life's Gray Zone. And the theme you'll see when I explain to you what that is, because it's not for everybody, but I know that everybody, every single human being who's breathing right now is going through adversity, has gone through adversity. And it's when we thrive within our adversity that we open up opportunities of growth when you are open-minded, right? So that's what I want to do. Also, I am an affiliate with dub.com and /BUMDII. It's Bumdi. It's a long story to explain what that means. It's when my kids were little. My kids are adults. Well, one adult now and one still in high school, but I will explain that later on. Now, in terms of my people, I wanted to do a couple of shout outs today. Let's see if I can actually share my screen, and I promised them that I would. So I will definitely share. Okay, so this is my great friend, Kim. And we actually did an amazing session, her and I. It was private, and my computer died after, like, almost at the end. But what it is, it gives you the power of your mind, the power of the mind and the energy that's intentional on what your life's pain is going through right now. And it's definitely from ancient teachings, right? So I want you guys to have a little bit snippet, maybe 30 seconds, okay? Just pay attention, close your eyes if you have to, or watch your eyes.
平安和谐，相爱平安和谐。
Wasn't that relaxing? So, full disclosure, I did do this writing with her. Not that I did it correctly, but I keep trying and keep practicing, keep doing this for an hour. Basically, take a picture of this writing and follow it. What it does within, if you believed in the higher power, doesn't matter what your religion is, just try it. Try, be open, right? When you see something you don't know, and you don't understand, the first thing you do is like, I don't know what this thing is, what juju this thing is. Be open minded. Just try. That's how I do things, and opportunity opens up more for you when you're open to new things. Another thing that I wanted to do shout out is that my dear sister Susanna Dawn has a class coming up, and I'm gonna take this out right now. She has a class coming up in actually this weekend, um, and it is about hold on, let me type it's about how, if you want to write, or maybe you have never written before and you see all of these people just keep writing, including myself, right? And I was just talking actually to Dr. Dreyer today about writing, and it's something that I never thought I would do in terms of personal. I do academic writing a lot, and APA is where I need to be, so that's my go-to. But what I want you guys to know is that writing is something that can be done by anybody and everybody, but sometimes we just don't know the right tools. Well, that's where Susanna Dawn, my dear sister here, is going to help you, right? So she is actually in, let's see if it's under her services. It's susannadawnwriter.com. And she has a couple of things here. Fear in the Box. They have Power of Reinvention if you want to and are ready to reinvent yourself. But the workshop for classes is basically down here. This is coming up here right now on the 16th, which is this Saturday. It's for 2 hours, well, 1 hour if you want to do just the non-combo. And she's a 4 times best-selling co-author. She also won awards from SIBA's Fantasy Book Awards. And she has 2 books right now on Amazon. And basically for $145, I would definitely jump on it. You'll get 2 workshops. The first one is Author's Page Workshop, meaning how do you create an authority as an author on Amazon, right? She's going to provide that workshop and hands-on show you exactly step by step on how to do that for $45. And then the other one is $125 for Amazon KDP. How do you use the Kindle to upload everything that you have done, whether it's a fantasy book, whether you're working in your memoir, maybe you're just working on a book and you have no clue of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish, then that is something that you can talk to her about. She's definitely have done her work to get to where she is. Now, if you do a combo, it's cheaper for you. It's $145 to do a combo, or you could do one of each. And if you just want the authority to, hey, I just want an author's page because I already have books, I just don't know how to put it together, by no means, go ahead and sign up for that one. And then if you just want how to upload on Kindle because you already have an author's page, by all means, go ahead and do it this one. But if you want to do the whole thing for 2 hours, it's 1 hour each of these, by the way, then I would suggest the 145. And it is a journey that you need to do yourself. And you are leveling up before the end of the year. So I definitely suggest contacting Susanna. It's Susanna Dawn, DAWN, writer.com. And tell them CJ sent you, right? And if you need anything, please DM me. I will be happy to help with that. I believe that is all I have in terms of that. And I will go ahead and, are you guys ready? Let me see if my guest is ready. Probably, he hasn't really like seen me with my crazy ass hair, but that's okay. That's just how I roll. I roll with, if I have bad hair day, whatever, I have another wig somewhere in here. I have like so many because I go to comic conventions, guys, and Monster Palooza. That's how I roll because I have a life other than academic, okay? But it doesn't seem like it though, right? So are you guys ready? Let me look. Let me take a look if he is ready. I think so. He's giving me a thumbs up. All right. That's a long drum roll. Where's the ending? Oh my god, I spilled coffee everywhere. You guys know Cheerio. If you guys know Cheerio, she decided this morning that she's gonna pull every. My road almost dropped on the floor. My coffee was everywhere. My monitor dropped. It was just a morning. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Hounds of Business, Mike Ashbrowner. Thank you, brother. And Dr. Dryer, welcome.
Yes. How are you today, CJ? Great to be here.
Yes, busy, but I am so glad we're spending a good amount of time today to get to know you, what you're all about. And people was like, "Oh, I love the title from Battlefield to the Boardroom. Sounds so sexy and like mysterious." I'm like, right? So why don't you come and get to know my dear brother over here and talk to us? So the first question I usually have for my guests is this: think back 20 years ago and find within your timeline some of the significant changes in your life that got you here where you are today.
Yeah, great question. Most people often are asked to think towards the future, right? And not reflect on the past, which is kind of interesting. 20 years ago, I'm 44 now. So what was I, 24? I was in my first 4 years in the Marine Corps at that point. And I think some things going back then to where I am today that I look back to reflect upon is one is the amount of work that has gone into figuring out who I am as a person, right? And trying to figure out the age old question is, what is my purpose? And when I joined the Marine Corps, I honestly anticipated to do it for 4 years and then get out to take, free college and go back to doing whatever I was supposed to be doing in life, go to college, get a job, save money. And at that point, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And the Marine Corps provided me kind of a safe blanket that as long as I stayed in the military, everything was okay. And it provided me time to figure out who I was. So I think definitely a lot of work in that aspect, self-reflection. Who am I? What's my purpose? What am I doing here? Why am I going to do this? And a lot of times it was, I don't know, but I like it. So let's just go figure it out as I move through it.
Wow. Yeah. When I was in high school, I actually took the ASVAB test, and they asked me, what do you want to major in? And I said, well, I really like communications, but my dad said I should be a computer programmer. And they're like, well, which one do you want? I'm like, I have no clue. I'm literally 17. English is my seventh language. This is my third year in this country. No idea. Like, I didn't know how to speak English, okay? 3 years ago. That's why I told them. They're like, well, why don't you just take this test and see? And I'm like, okay. So I took the test. I'm a good test taker. Let's just say that. That doesn't mean I understand. I just know logic. And I scored pretty high, and they're like, yeah, let's go get you in, get your scholarship. We pay for your college and blah, blah, blah. And my dad's like, military? No. And I'm
Yeah,
like, why,
absolutely.
Dad? He's like, no, it's just not going to happen. And he wouldn't explain to me why. And I'm like, it was free money. I don't have to owe nothing. He's like, no. And later on, when I got a lot of military friends, I understand that it's a rough. I think I was already having a rough time with my life, and he just wanting to get to know me. I've never met my dad until about that time when I came to America. So he didn't want me like just knowing for 3 years and then leaving again after a year. So that was one of his reasoning. But I salute people who actually go in to what they're trying to do and then getting in and they're like, wait, this is not what I'm expecting to do here. What is
Mhm.
happening, right? And of course, within the last 20 years of your life, you're like, okay, I'm 24, now I'm 44. What made you stop? Like, just think, okay, because I looked at your profile. You have a diverse background, like from military to, Amazon to now financial. So walk me through that.
Yeah, that whole process, if I were to sum it up, right, key takeaways, you had asked a lot, and it took me a little bit to realize a lot of people are very interested in that transitional aspect, right? And I was told this quote once, and I thought it was phenomenal. People will pay you for your past to improve their future, right? And aligned with some of the stuff that you do, we all have a story, and people want to hear that story because they want to see if there's relatability and they want lessons learned. And so if I were to sum it up, right, how did that transition process work going from, and I was actually in college before I even went to the military. I went to a private school, left private school, graduated, went to a college, and then literally as soon as I started, I realized that it just wasn't for me. So joining the Marine Corps was a huge surprise to everybody. And I recall the situation when I came home and told my mom, hey mom, I left college, I'm not going to go. We couldn't afford it anyways. And she's like, what are you going to do? I was like, well, I'm going to go to the military. And she's like, oh, praise the Lord, that's great. Military education, free college, as long as you didn't join the Marine Corps. I was like, well, mom, I joined the Marine Corps. She cried a little bit, gave me a hug, and she's like, well, I can work with this as long as you didn't join the infantry. I was like, well, mom, I joined the infantry. And, strike two, right? And she's just in tears. I'm her oldest son, single mom, 2 kids. I don't know who my dad is. I actually never met the guy. And so she's just like, what are we going to do? My baby. And then she kind of calms down and she's like, as long as we have the summer together, like we can do this. And I was like, well, I leave next week, strike 3. So going back to that, like what a shocker, right? But going back to kind of that reflection piece is knowing who you are, and more importantly, knowing who you are not. Fakeness, I think, is a cancer that is easily distinguishable between a real person and not. So focusing on that aspect, right? The help in the process of going from military to corporate to financial planning now, right? Know how to inspire people, how to motivate people. And I kind of chuckle, know how to motivate at the right time. Fake motivation is a killer of motivation, the irony, right? And, maybe the last piece that's helped me out is the striving to be technically and tactically proficient. It's a Marine Corps terminology, right? Knowing not only what your job is, but also how to execute and do your job to the point that you can teach it to others. Those 3 areas really in particular has helped me through the process.
I have to mute myself. So if I start talking, my mouth opens and there's nothing, I'm muting because my bulldog, again, I have 2 right now, decided that he's going to snore right next to me. So you're going to hear it, the snoring. So I apologize ahead of time. But I'm glad that you said that. Here's the thing. I'm glad that you also caught on that I talk about the past rather than the future, because the past is what the first 10 years of your life actually kind of propel you and kind of set you as your foundation for the rest of your life, right? That's your foundation. We came in here in this world blank. We're already a survivor. Imagine how many thousands of little beings trying to get to that egg, and we are here. We got to that egg. Now it's always been a struggle and a journey from way before we were even born. Then we came out. Then you have a struggle again for the first 10 years. Like you said, you never know your dad. I got to meet my dad and my mom, but I consider myself as an abandoned child because they left me when I was 2. I didn't have any parents. And they left me in the Philippines. My mom was an American. She was born in LA. She raised and born here in LA. And she came back to the Philippines because, back in the 60s, you do some stupid stuff. And she got caught at 15. And they're basically saying, hey, you're going to go back to your aunt. Her parents were getting a divorce at that time. And you're going to go there because they have strict rules. And you're going to get straightened out. Didn't figure out that by sending her there, she got pregnant with my dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at 16, got me at 17, right? So then she came back here and I didn't come with her. So I was there until I was about 11 or 12 years old. And I came here when I was 13. I never met my mom until I was 7. And the book that just came out with Nick's anthology, our anthology called, Our Legacy, A Note to My Family, is a letter written to my mother and how grateful I am. Because all this time, I've always had that hurt and that anger. And I didn't understand until I had my own children that you can understand how hard must have been for her to let go and not have control on someone that she almost died giving birth to, because somebody else's have a choice to control that. So it has been difficult, for her and for everybody else. So that's why I always talk about the past, because your past doesn't define your future. But I'm hoping that you're introspective to see, why are you here? You mentioned I was looking for my purpose. So I'm hoping that you did find your purpose. So talk to me about that.
You said something real quick, and I don't think we've talked about this actually, but you could almost copy and paste. My mother had me, she was pregnant at 16, had me at 17, pregnant at 18, had my sister at 19. And it's interesting, you wouldn't know this just by looking at someone and having a general conversation. It would never come up. But the relatabilities and stories are incredible. I was just speaking at an event, Tag Talks, and I was out in Dallas, Texas. And real quick, it was interesting because it was an area where I could go up there and talk about leadership. I could talk about development, talk about things that maybe I'm really passionate about to maybe inspire or motivate someone in that asset. But everyone else was already covering that. And so I chose on the flight out, as I wrote my speech, to talk about my life, my story. And I did it in two ways. And the facts remained the same: where I was born, what I did, where I went, how I am where I am today. But I changed the lens in which I told the story. And it was kind of interesting. The takeaway is I told the first part, I went to a private school. I was always in sports, went to college. I got a doctorate degree, right? Look at my wall. Awesome. But then I told the same story, and then I brought the beginning into it. But I was born into a house with no dad, raised by a single mom who was never there. I was arrested multiple times by 8th grade, right? And it changed the emotions in the audience. And I believe that's just life, facts and emotions. If you can separate the two and know when to go with factual and when to go with emotions, I think life's a little bit easier. Anyways, I tailed off here. What'd you ask me? That's my brain.
No,
That's how my brain
I'm
works.
glad, no, I'm glad that you said that. No, I'm just looking. It's the same thing, really, like talking about the past and when it's appropriate. Because I think a lot of people, we assume that people want to know your success. In fact, I think because you're successful, they think life comes easy to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And that's really where people says like, oh my God, it's so congratulations. But deep inside, they're wondering, yeah. Your life's just so easy. It's you probably just flick your finger and boom, it comes, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't see the hardship. And that's what I love about this conversation. It's because I want to know the messy side of human being. Because in reality, life is messy. It's amazing. It's hard. It's happiness. It's difficult again. It goes up and down, right? And that's why I love to talk about the messy side of human being, because everyone, we have our own mess that we are hiding in the closet.
Yeah.
But by hiding it in the closet, we're not really helping anybody. By just talking about our successes, we're not helping anybody. We're probably creating enemies at that point.
Mhm.
They're like, yeah, you're perfect, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I'm going through my own depression right now. What are you going to do about it? Nothing, right? And that's what I love about that conversation. So let's just go ahead and segue actually to this one. So with your transition from a Marine Corps combat veteran to a terrorism analyst and then to corporate role at Amazon, like, wow, what were some of the most valuable lessons you learned about leadership that can be applied across varied fields?
I found first and foremost, and this is kind of a big curveball, but if you always know how many days there are until Christmas, life seems a little bit easier for you. And I found that in stressful situations, you just let someone know there's X amount of days till Christmas, the situation becomes a little bit more enlightful. But anyways, I always do that to have some fun. But I think going back to what I said earlier, like know yourself, and more importantly, know who you are not. I think that helped me a lot with the transition. And I say that because whether you do 4 years in the Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Coasties, whatever the case is, law enforcement's a big example, or you do a full 20, I think there's reality to losing the identity. And the Marine Corps, I think, is maybe the most popular for this because it's the only branch of service where the name of the service is the title of which you are, right? When someone says I'm in the Army, they usually say I'm a soldier, right? But when we're in the Marine Corps, what are you? I'm a Marine, right? And you really embed that title and it becomes who you are and it becomes your identity. And so there becomes a point where you have to separate yourself from, I'm no longer in the Marine Corps. I'm no longer a Marine, right? We say, never say former, you're always a Marine. But the reality is that when you separate and you leave the service and you go to something else, and I call Amazon my first civilian job, you have to refigure out who you are again. And people ask you, hey, what do you do at Amazon? It's interesting. People respond in a couple different ways. Well, I work in program management. Awesome. What do you do? Explain more. Or what do you do at Amazon? I'm a program manager, right? They go right at you with the title of who they are, and they leave out who they really are as a person. And so I like things when people say, what do you do? Well, I help individuals do this, or I educate individuals in this sector. Well, what does that mean? Tell me more about it. Oh, I work as a program manager, right? Something along those lines. And so I think knowing myself and knowing who I was not really helped me in those transitional aspects. And arguably my transition was probably easier than many because I didn't go from active duty cold into a civilian workforce. I went from active duty into the reserves to a government organization, the Department of Defense, and had a slow transition out. And then once I finished with the DoD, I moved into the Amazon sector. And so I kind of had a good path of full military, reserve military, a little bit less, but still working with the government, to Amazon. And so my transition was eased a little bit. And what I found along the ways, as I mentioned earlier, is like knowing how to inspire people and knowing how to motivate people. I am a huge facet of that aspect. If you are motivating and you are inspiring, whatever your method is, I'm attracted to you. You're like that bright light in a moth. I want to follow you because I want to know, A, why you're doing it, and then how you're doing it. Like, what is about you that just motivates me? And I love that mentality. And so I wanted to become that person. And in the Marine Corps, it was easy. Run really fast, lift a lot of weights, be really good at everything you do. You're motivating. In Amazon, no one cares how much you can lift. No one cares how good you are with a rifle. No one cares how well you can, establish standoff distance with explosives. But they want to know, how do you motivate? And so I had to learn quickly how to be empathetic. I had to learn how to understand people. I had to learn that when someone said, I'm having a bad day, my grandma's sick, not to embed my story. Oh, I know what that's like. My grandma was sick too. That never helps, right? Rather than asking, what are you feeling right now? How can I be there for you? Do you need time off? What can I do for you? So I think those areas really helped me with the transition through those agencies and coming into what I'm doing now.
I love that. That is definitely where we're aligned in terms of listening. I always tell people, I don't know why we're built like that. Like when you say something and you always have to somehow in our brains, like, I have to relate to what he's saying, so I'm going to find the same example.
And it's not out of ill intention. It's just we want to feel like we're relating, right?
Yeah, we're trying to feel that belongingness. Human being needs to have that belongingness. And so it's like comparing notes, but then when it gets up and down like this, and you're like, wait, hold up. Are we like trying to compare ourselves or what's going on here? It's so funny because as soon as you said Amazon, I'm like, yeah, I don't know when you went to work with Amazon. I didn't look at the year, but my husband was their global architect for AWS. Okay. We used to live in Northern Cali because of that. But he was putting fires, and he does not want to wake up at 3 a.m. when Hong Kong is going down. So he's like, I don't want to put fires. I love architecture on cyberspace. And he loves doing that. I wanted to pause for a moment. I don't know Jeffrey. Jeffrey, welcome to Level Up Circle. I almost said TV, but today's not a TV show. It's my YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn show. Tomorrow is the TV show. It says finding your purpose is so important. This should be taught in school at an early age. We'd have such a different world. Rather than being robots, we'd have more creative, amazing human beings today. I want to take a moment and actually talk about that because India, back in 30 or 40 years ago, I talked to somebody who's an educator and also works for a big corporation in India. He said back in the days, they actually, for the first 10 years of the kid's life, they don't teach them anything but their own self, how to find yourself, how to have strong mental capacity, what are some of the things that a kid is, that when when you're a kid, they grow up in the first 10 years of their life, you see what they're strong and what they're not strong. It's like a SWOT analysis of your own child from your own point of view, and you guide them of where they need to be. And then India has become technical schools everywhere, and they lost that. And they have a lot of people. They have 1.4 billion people in India, and most of them went to school of more technical because they think that the world is now want them to be that, and they lost this aspect right here. And that's where I think people who are in their 40s and 50s and above, we're like, we learned our lesson. We need to go back to learning ourselves first, because without learning ourselves, our capabilities, our, how we sustain ourselves, how we can go move forward. And like, we had a little sideline conversation, you and I. You're like, yeah, you probably learn how to shut that noise. I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I've learned that people will always have an opinion of you, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. I don't care. You don't pay my bills. You don't sleep right here and clean my house. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't clean doo-doo for my dogs. I don't care what your opinion is. At the end of the day, I want, like you said, to inspire people, and it's hard. I feel like I'm doing so many things because I feel like life is super short. I could go in the next 5 minutes, and I almost died 8 times.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, I really don't care what people say. It's my life. If I die, you're gonna forget about me anyway. It doesn't matter. And my life is not lived just because of me. I love to impact people's lives, and that's what I'm doing in a hurry. Apparently, that's why I do a lot of things. Is because including cancer was on there. When someone tell you you're gonna die in 8 months, really? Yeah.
Hmm.
If you don't do this right, and you get put in the box, and the first thing that you do is fight or flight, right? I did flight. Okay, my kids were little, and I was like, oh man. The first thing I thought, they're gonna grow up with a stepmother. I wonder if they're gonna be raised well, right? That's the first thing I thought with my kids, and then the next thing is like, CJ, you can't just accept it. You can't accept it. That's not who you are. If you've always been in trouble, the black sheep of the family, just go for whatever that needs to be done. And with the help of my husband, we figured that one out, and I'm still here. I was supposed to die in 2011, still here. So
Yeah.
right, and that's what my motivating factor. And Jeffrey, thank you so much for bringing that up, because we still have the future, right? And now we're living today. So thank you so much for that reminder. My next question is, can you share how your military experience influenced your approach to financial planning? Because that's your job now, right?
Yeah.
Particularly when working with small business owners and, of course, military veterans.
Yeah, that's what I do now. The irony, right? Marines are not known for their ability to add and subtract. We just destroy and break things and then figure it out at the end, right? So math for Marines, we kind of always joke. But how did that military experience, I believe you asked, kind of influence my ability to go into financial planning? Um, I guess it starts back. You could probably go back as far as not having a lot as a kid growing up, and money wasn't. I joke and say we were so poor we couldn't even financially plan, right? Because we had nothing to plan for. And it's funny, I told him my story at that tag event, how I always had the newest equipment, right? When I went back to talk about what was left out, I always had the newest equipment about a year or two later after it came out, because we put that stuff on layaway so we could pay it off until we could afford to actually have it. But again, it's however you paint your picture through what lens, right? And so for me, it was wanting to have something for the future. I've always been someone that has looked years down the road. I'm not a visionary by any means, but in terms of my own life, it's where do I see myself in 10 years? Where do I see myself in 20 years? And it's funny, I heard a quote one day, it might have even been from Dave Ramsey, but he kind of said, he goes, look, in general, poor people plan 2 weeks out, rich people plan 10 years out, right? The point he's making is that if you want to have something for later, you have to plan with a later mindset. You just can't plan for in the moment. And I thought with financial ability and financial planning, that's kind of something that was always attracted to me. I had a financial advisor when I was active duty. He helped me manage my money, get some insurance set up for the family, and he helped me kind of map a future to where I want to go. And it aligned with how I think about life. I start with the end in mind. I reverse plan. It's how I'm always on time. I pride on never being late, because I start at the end of the day and then work my way backwards. His philosophy of planning, which I've adapted, is I start with the end of your life in mind and I work my way backwards. I always resonated with that. So I think that's one reason that led me into financial planning. The other aspect is I love to plan, right? And there's this thing, I don't know if they call it the 6 Ps or 5 Ps, right? The Marine Corps has to throw a swear word into everything. So if it was 5 Ps, it's now 6 Ps, but proper planning prevents piss poor performance. And financial planning, there's no better way to prevent a poor outcome than to properly plan ahead of time, right? We slow down and plan now so we can speed up and live later. Again, it's how my brain has always been. It's how I function. So financial planning kind of aligned to me, right? And the last piece, not in any particular order, but I think vitally important, is it's a great way to continue to be of service, right? In the Marine Corps, what do you do for the whole time you're in? You serve your country, you do what you can to be of service. I think financial planning, whether you're that or you're a motivational speaker or you're a life coach, you do something where you can continue to be of service. And whenever I meet with a potential client, I always ask them, how can I be of service? right? And it throws people off. Well, I don't know. How can you? Perfect. We should talk.
I love that approach. When people don't want something that they don't even know they want or they need, it's funny. I see it all the time. It's funny because I used to get upset and I'm like, why am I upset? It's not their fault. They don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be intentional to look for something that you need. And so when I'm looking at people, and my youngest students is 4. I have a 4-year-old that was my youngest student. I used to do K to 12 teaching. I do higher ed
Wow.
for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
oldest student is 78 years old, and she is a veteran. I have a lot of veteran students. I love them because they're always on time. They don't ever, they're so disciplined. They don't question a lot of things unless they don't get what I'm saying. They're like, how do I? And we all, most of us read Sun Tzu's War. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. I've read it since I was
Art
4.
of War. Yep.
Yeah, my grandfather taught us that. And because I grew up with no electricity, I grew up cooking, from the rocks. And I grew up where dinner time we hear bombings because Christians and Muslims were having issues in where I grew up. So I grew up that intense and trauma, but to us it's like it was normal because we hear it. So we just keep talking, and I never thought that coming to America I would have to feel like my kids' safety would be in line, and it's constant stress because of school shootings. Um, so that's another thing I have to teach my children, to be resilient, right? To be thinking about not fearing, but knowing what to do in the what if situation and giving them the right tools. And that's really what you're doing with financial planning. A lot of people don't want to talk about money because A, we don't have money to plan, like you said, and B, that you don't know what you don't know, right? I know what I need to cut. Do I do it? No. Like, I know what I need to cut, okay? No more luxury bags. No more all of those things. I'm like, okay, I'm switching it to software now because I'm doing the content creation thing. I know what I need to cut. I need to cut Amazon's ties. I can't help myself. Every day there's Amazon package at my house. Do I need them? No. Do I want them? Yeah.
And that's what financial planning does, is it brings out what I call the ugly truth, right? You're forced to be totally transparent and vulnerable and say, look, I appear as if I'm living a really good life, but deep down, whatever, my husband and I, my kids and I, we're almost paycheck to paycheck, right? Don't be ashamed of it. Embrace it, right? It's expensive to live in this world. And then I think you're in San Diego. Now I'm in Orange County. It's expensive to live in California. So how can we help you prepare and plan? And that's kind of the approach of it. I tell people all the time, I am more than happy to share how little I have, but I know exactly how little I have, and I know exactly where I'm going to be in 20 years. So I love it.
Yeah. Now, my next question is, in your book about leading Marines in combat in Afghanistan, you must have some shared, profound experiences from there. What is the one story that you think encapsulates the essence of your time there, and what you do, hope for readers to take away from that they can use every day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could talk stories all day long. The book's titled The Battle Won by Handshakes, the story of Alpha Company 1-5. 1-5 is a historical, very famous and successful unit in the Marine Corps, located right here in Camp Pendleton, California. And I think first and foremost, if you were to capsulize it, the Marines, or the people that you thought, and we call them kind of, gung-ho, highly motivated, that we thought in combat were going to be the ones that were going to be the daring, strategic, amazing leaders, often they're not. It's the quiet ones that you typically think are not going to make it, or they won't be able to do, 4 years in the Marine Corps because they just maybe aren't physically strong, or they just appear to be weak. It's actually those that in combat are typically the ones that are risking it all and are doing the jobs that no one else wants to do. So in terms of a captivating event, that always amazed me, is the strong guy, the one that bangs his chest all day long, right? They're actually typically not the ones that are your, amazing Marines in combat. It's the ones that are really quiet. One story, though, in particular, and it helped with the title of the book, is we were on a patrol. And if you can just imagine any third world country where we were at in Afghanistan, we were in a southern province, Helmand district, which at the time was the capital for heroin trade. So you can imagine it's a highly populated area in terms of drug trafficking. It's very rich in its Pashto culture. It's very divided by tribes. There's no pavement. It's all dirt. It's all corn. It's all cow. It's all cotton. It's all poppy. And we're on this patrol down the road, and this is maybe 2 or 3 months into our deployment. I don't think anyone liked us. At least it didn't feel it that way. No one would talk to us. We had a hard time interacting with the locals. And we're on this patrol. We're walking down the road, and this little kid, and I think I got the picture in my book actually, he kind of pops himself out from around the parents. And at this point, the parents and the families would typically hide their kids, or they would hide the females as we'd come down the streets. And this little kid kind of pops his head out, and he gives us this thumbs up, right? And thumbs up, universal sign for gratification and approval, right? I think I got that right. And it was a turning point where I was like, okay, there is a purpose here. And, there's this quote that this Army general had said, and I remember this in the book that I wrote about it, we've killed the thousands and thousands of the enemy in Afghanistan, right? And it hasn't clearly brought us any closer to our objectives. We could kill 1,000 more and we still wouldn't be any closer to our objectives. So you take that thought process with a kid coming out and giving us a thumbs up on patrol, it showed us that maybe the violent aspect of combat and war, maybe that's not the answer right now. So what is? So that's when our employment really shifted focused. And that's where the title of the book comes into play. So I think that moment really stands out to me because it was the first sign of approval in an area that we didn't think anyone wanted us to be there. And we still had 4 or 5 months left of this deployment to do what we were going to do. So that was really inspiring, and it helped us a lot and ultimately led to the cause of the book.
Wow. Now I'm curious. I'm like, I'm going to read that book. Is it in Kindle?
Yeah, Kindle. It's you get the e-version. You can download. It's Amazon, iUniverse, Barnes and Noble.
I'm gonna have to look that up because I want to read up. I have a lot of book friends, and so I've been reading. I'm still reading Susanna's book right now. It's fascinating. Now I was reading her book the other night. Now I can't find it, but it's here because it's amazing. Search of the Armor of God. Now she has book number 2. And I always try to relate it, right? Because there's no point, like, yes, I love fantasy book, but I want books that helps me as a person. Like a couple of weeks ago, about a month and a half ago, I just got diagnosed with adult ADHD. And it actually makes sense that I have it, now that I found it. But it took me 5 psychiatrists to get there, okay? And for me, it's like every time someone asked me something, I couldn't answer. But like when you say, you don't need to speak the language, that nonverbal communication of thumbs up, usually a sign of approval.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's the same thing with business. I'm thinking about it in a business sense and a day-to-day, right? It's not that you need an approval, but it's nice to hear and see when people recognize what you're doing is helping them, right? Yep. And I love that aspect of what you have done. And thank you so much for your service and sacrifice for this country. A lot of people don't realize that you give up literally everything to help us have that freedom. And this one, balancing a role as a business owner, a published author, and a father. How do you manage your time effectively? And what advice would you give to others striving to succeed in multiple areas of their life?
Oh yeah, great question. Time management and work-life balance, I think it's all subjective. There are days where I struggle. I'm struggling right now, actually, with management. I'm studying for my investment exams, which are in 7 days, right? And I just don't know how I'm balancing all this stuff. But for me, and I mentioned it before, I'm a big reverse planner, and it's something that the Marine Corps teaches, and we do very well when preparation for combat, preparation for missions. You start at the end of the day or the end of the mission, and you work your way backwards. I have found that for me has worked really well with how I think and how I view things. I am not very good at going in the moment, and I am horrible when it comes to spontaneous, let's just figure it out and do it as we go type thing. I'm not that good at it. So I like structure. So that reverse planning allows me to segment and compartmentalize my day, and it helps me plan things out. And I do my scheduling the same way. I start at the end of the day, or I start at the, the biggest meeting and then work backwards from there. The other one, which is kind of surprising, and again, I steal it from the Marine Corps, is what we call the 1/3, 2/3 rule in the planning process. And the Marine Corps planning process is pretty sophisticated, but for this approach, you take 1/3 of your time. So if you have an hour, take 1/3 of that time and you dedicate it to your planning, your preparation. You take 2/3 of that time and you actually utilize that for your execution. And so for me, the 1/3, 2/3 rule makes sense. And so it helps me. And so with everything that I have going on with the kids and soccer, and even what we have today with soccer tryouts, and still trying to find time to work and still trying to find time to study and still trying to just be a person living in my home, just reverse plan. What does it look like starting tonight at 6 o'clock when I want to be eating dinner? I've got this, so I got to allocate X amount of time for that. Perfect. And I just go backwards to here we are this morning.
Awesome.
Sounds simple, right?
Yeah, no, I love that because it took me a long time to not be structured. I'm a very structured person. It drives me insane when people just like go with it. I'm like, go with what? I need to grasp something. I need to hold on to something. Go with what? You give me a topic, I'll go with it. But if there's not, it drives me insane, and I'm very structured. But I had to learn to be flexible. And with, like you said, there's kids. I got 2 kids and not single parent. I've been married 20 years. And, trying to figure out, I have literally like 3-4 full-time jobs. I have 600 students right now. And I do 2 times of this, and plus my MP3, which is another radio station. And then I do a lot of things, but I always reflect, how can I help what I do, extrapolate it and give it to my students or my friends? And I actually did an audio. I don't know. Have you heard of the Eisenhower matrix from President Eisenhower?
Heard it. It's used quite a bit in terms of just planning and mapping your time.
Okay. How about the Pomodoro?
I think I've heard of that.
So think of like a timer in when you're baking. Not that you know baking, but just in case you do know baking, you put a timer. Even your iPhone have a timer. Okay. So it's the same kind of thing that what you do, but instead of reverse engineer, I go forward down. And so basically you have to look at, okay, a lot of people, especially me, have ADHD, so I can't just sit still and concentrate on one thing. I get bored and I'm like doing other things, but I need to focus on what I need to do so I can finish it, right? So what I do is if you have that type of brain that just jump from one to the other, like me, I would take 25 minutes first, or even 30 minutes, and you take 5 minutes break every 25 minutes and literally put your timer up, time for a break, and go somewhere else. 25 minutes, hard work. Like, don't even think about anything else. Just 25 minutes. I need to write this book. I need to study.
Remove distractions. Just go for it.
Yeah. And then 5 minutes, go get distracted. I don't care. Right. And then 25 minutes back at it again. And then when you hit an hour, which is 4 times of that Pomodoro, then after that, you take 30 minutes big break that you really just brain just go away, right? And so that's what I do for time management because it works for me and it works for some people. Oh my gosh, we're almost at the end. Okay, I'm going to give you the last question that you have not seen, but hopefully this will be something. Now, if this is your last day today, Dr. Dreyer, on this earth, what would be your parting message to your current and future families in terms of living life, legacy, and impact?
Oh, the Marine Corps taught me I'm supposed to say, pin the medals upon my chest and tell my mom I did my best. But I think, going back to something you said is interesting because you asked about me reflecting 20 years ago. And I've kind of always had this quote where I go, we tend to daydream about the future and dwell on the past. And I tell people, don't do that, right? Not to say you can't reflect and have metacognitive aspects to your life, but the point being is don't daydream about where you think you want to be and don't dwell on the horrible aspects of the past. Put something into action. Plans are nothing, but planning is everything. And so, focus on something forward. And I think when it all comes down to, at the end of the day, if I could have it right, find a way just to have fun in the midst of whatever you have going on in your life. We all have garbage. We all have baggage. We got something, right? Just find a way to have fun with it. And I think I mentioned earlier in the green room, and I do this in life because of some of the extreme situations I've seen. And I'm not saying mine are more extreme than someone else's, but in general, when I wake up and Orange County, California. There's no bomb outside of my house, right? No one's trying to shoot at me in general. No one's dying that day in terms of what we're doing. It's relatively pretty safe. I'm driving to work. I'm going to Starbucks. So just have fun when you're presented with a poignant situation or something that just is horrible. Just have fun with it.
I love that. Have fun. I try to have fun as much as I can. A lot of people are like, "Oh my God, your background is so busy." I'm like, "Listen, that's the reflection of my head. My head is so busy. So this is normal for me. Might not be normal for you." And then you're like, "Oh my God, you're so pink." Okay, be quiet. I know I am bright. I am bougie. I am bright. I am it. You don't like me, it's okay. Turn the channel off somewhere else. You like me, great. Let's come and do collaboration. And that's what I was talking about with the book that I'm going to be doing next year for the anthology is we judge people by the face, by what you see. We don't really know the in between part of the person, the inner part of the person, and that could be an opportunity for greatness. But
Absolutely.
you judge them when they look at you, when okay, you're not educated, wow, I don't want to deal with you. Okay, you dress weird, oh wow, no, I'm not educated with you. Oh, you wear wig, whoa, there's something going on with you. Yeah, there's always something going on with my head. Believe me, I've been trying to talk to myself for a long time, like what is going on in there? But at the end of the day, ask me who I've helped, ask me
Oh
who
yeah.
I've motivated, ask me whose lives I've saved. Ask me those questions that makes more sense than judging me for what I am not. I am not your enemy, right? I am not trying to shoot you. I am not trying to drag you.
Yep.
I am not collecting money from you. Unless, of course, you're in my class. That's a different story, right?
Yep.
I am here to collaborate because collaboration over competition wins all day, every day in my book. We might be doing the same thing, inspirational. We might be trying to have the same and live our purpose, but we're doing it differently.
Absolutely. Love it. Great
Right?
message.
So,
If only it was really like that in real life,
yes, it is. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you being here. I know
Of
you're
course.
busy studying, so I appreciate you being here. And wait for me in the green room, and I will finish it up in a minute, okay?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Say bye to Dr. Dryer, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh my God, that was really amazing. Crystal, sister. It's wig. I can't find I was gonna do my unicorn, but I was like, I can't find it. Cheerio probably has my other hair. That's okay. When I have a bad hair day and I don't have time because I had to drop off my child today that's dragging her feet to go to school. It's the last day of school. I'm like, do you not want to go to school? I have a test today. I'm like, who gives you a test in the last week of school? We gotta have to change this business. Randy, what's up, brother? Better late than never. I'm so glad that you're here. You're yes, thank you, Susanna. Thank you, dear sister. Guys, calling out everybody there. If you want to be an author thinking of writing, you need help on how to. SusannaJohnWriter.com. Okay, there's under services. She has classes and workshop this Saturday. Sign up. It's gonna go up. The price is gonna go up next year. So if I were you, sign up now. Thanks for a great interview, Jeffrey. Welcome to the Hounds. And Mike is amazing, right? Well, thank you so much, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be our TV show. So Roku, Amazon Fire, Google, we're going to go into Samsung as well. Also, I'm looking for internet radio. And you're probably thinking, well, don't you already have an MP3? No. That's not the radio that I'm looking. I know I'm on all kinds of distribution channels, but I want to take over all communication everywhere because I'll be hiring like crazy next year in terms of collaboration. And we want to have everyone's story out there, whatever your story is, to get you out there. Okay. We are going to be the publicity hub for you because we are so sick and tired of doing the news. Everything they give you, the news is filtered by whoever's paying for them. This is open on Wednesday. You don't pay me nothing, right? It's free on YouTube. But Thursday is airtime. You do have to pay for that airtime because it is on a network, a TV network. So that's a different story. But I want to know who you are, what you're doing for our community, and we are taking you global. Okay, we're almost at 100 nations and countries listening to us on our MP3. So please let me know, DM me if you have any questions. Bye, everybody. Have a nice day. Have a nice Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for spending time with Dr. Dryer and I. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Dance your life away on Wednesday, guys.